Hi there, I'm John Tanner, Global Technology Editor for Telecom Asia. We're here on the sidelines of LTE Asia at Suntec City in Singapore. And I'm joined right now by Robert Pizzari. He's the Director of Sales for the Service Provider Division Asia Pacific and Japan for F5 Networks. Robert, thank you very much for joining us. We're here to talk about LTE security, so let's start with the obvious question. What are the main security risks facing LTE operators, and how are they different from 3G?
Yeah, look, we've taken a good look at it from an F5 perspective, and I think one of the fundamental differences within LTE is the fact that they're moving into an all IP domain and environment. Networks and architectures are becoming flatter and more open. So as a result of that, the level of security vulnerabilities are certainly expected to be on the increase. How it differs? Well, there's a few aspects. I think what we've learnt from 3G, especially in the early days, was that devices were still quite closed. Operators controlled the end-to-end applications that were going across their networks. But as we transition into LTE, I think there's a lot more exposure to over-the-top type applications, third-party developers, and with that lies some inherent risks. So for example, when you're downloading an application, do you know that's from a trusted source or untrusted source? And with that then opens up opportunities for hackers and hacktivists to potentially inadvertently or under the radar, if you like, install some kind of malware or some kind of backdoor component which then exposes the subscriber. More importantly, even from a network side, what we've actually experienced in 3G, and we expect to get worse from a 4G perspective, is really the whole denial of service attack. So as IP networks are all IP based, there are certainly avenues for people on the outside to effectively kick off, DDoS attacks as an example. So we've seen a substantial rise in DDoS with SYN attacks, port flooding and other things in 3G and in some early LTE networks. The other aspect around LTE is that some of the network elements, because it is a complete IP domain, potentially even there's inadvertent or accidental internal events that may occur, like signaling floods, which could be considered an attack, if you like. Is it specific to security? Possibly not, but there are certain characteristics that we're seeing in some of the early network deployments where some of these events are occurring.
Now, another issue for operators is LTE roaming, which of course creates complexity because of things like diameter protocols, which in turn creates more potential security issues. Now, IPX network providers are offering a way to simplify things for operators, but that doesn't mean the security problem is solved, does it?
Yeah, that's an interesting area. It's actually an area that we're leveraging an acquisition that we made last February. The company was called Trafix. Trafix offers a signaling delivery controller, which is based on the diameter protocol. We've been very successful in the region in deploying this as an edge agent in the exact use case that you described there, on the edge of the network, into carrier roaming type conditions and scenarios. What we've found is that one of the obvious areas is that as you connect to foreign networks, it's absolutely essential that you protect what's behind your edge gateway. So that edge gateway does a few things. One, it connects to foreign networks to allow transactions to take place, so that obviously there's an exchange of roaming revenues. But the critical factor that we've deployed is what we call topology hiding. So that if that edge agent is attacked or under threat, that becomes that point to actually protect the operator's remaining network. The other aspect as well is around if there are protocol exchanges that are malformed, without that edge agent protection in place, could potentially cause other unintended consequences on the home operator's side. So I think for us, what we're seeing in the marketplace is that whole methodology around topology hiding is something that our operators are valuing, and they actually see the benefit of it. And we're seeing that more and more operators, and even where they're interconnecting with IPX carriers, still want that internal level of self-protection.
So how is F5 helping operators address these security issues? You mentioned Trafix as one example. What else are you doing?
Yeah, good question. So we've deployed what we call the application delivery framework. So under this particular framework, there are a variety of elements that we're offering the marketplace. One of them, which is in line with our consolidation story, is actually to offer what we call the SGI firewall. This is a capability where deployed on the edge of an operator's network will protect them from a range of inbound security threats such as DDoS attacks and other types of attacks that we see on the increase within the industry. Not only DDoS from a layer 3 to layer 4, but all the way up the stack to layer 7, as there's been a rapid rise in increase with layer 7 attacks. This firewalling capability is something that our operators have bought off on because we can also create a multifunction or multifunctional platform to include carrier-grade NAT, so simplify the architecture on the edge, as well as several other capabilities like our policy enforcement management platform, which once again, in combination or in concert, are able to offer that extra layer of protection. When we start looking at the applications, so we touched a little bit about applications, I think one of the critical aspects to what we've seen from a security trends perspective is that the hackers and the activists in this world actually realize that one of the key areas of vulnerability is the application itself. A lot of the application developers, where you go to let's say a application store to download an application, aren't overly concerned about your security as a consumer or as a corporate customer downloading this application. So for us, protecting subscribers from potential malicious malware and other aspects is also another area that we're looking at from a end portal, any form of internet-facing database will provide that firewalling capability.
Okay, well, unfortunately we're out of time, so I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap it up there. But Robert Pizzari of F5 Networks, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, John. Thank you.